The Distinguished Alumni Society recognizes and honors those alumni who demonstrate outstanding leadership beyond the Webb School community. Membership in the Distinguished Alumni Society is awarded by the Alumni Board and the Board of Trustees. Members of the Society include Webb alumni who, through personal commitment, work ethic, and service, have achieved significant success in their professional careers and have made outstanding contributions to their communities, demonstrating Sonny's vision of bringing honor to themselves and to the Webb School. Marion Marks, alumnus from the class of 1967 and former Webb faculty member, has joined us today to introduce this year's inductee. Marion? Oh, hello.
Brian said that we should be real Webb people and wear Webb glasses, but I want to see everyone well. There is no greater honor that I could have as a teacher than to have one of my students ask me to introduce him for this award. And of course, Brian wears his dark glasses right now. It's humbling, really, to tell the story of Brian Singer, because I knew Brian before he was a student at Webb. And I hope I'm not embarrassing him by this. But his father was my graduate school advisor. And every time I would go to his class, we would have to talk afterward, and he was quizzing me on how appropriate Webb School would be for his sons. And the next year, Ray came as a junior and Brian came as a freshman. And I did not get to teach Ray, but I did get to teach Brian for 3 of the 4 years he was here. And after he graduated and after I matriculated out of Webb, I continued to call his father based on career opportunities that I had, and because he had been such a good advisor to me academically in life. And David Singer always, first thing that came out of his mouth was, let me tell you what Brian's doing now. And it wasn't that he and Brian always saw eye to eye on everything. I don't think he understood it. Like, I don't understand some of the finance world, but he was proud to say he's succeeding at what he's doing. After Brian's graduation, and I was long out of bell buckle, I continued to call his father, and probably up until 10 years ago, we spoke maybe once or twice a year. It may have just been a casual conversation, but he would tell me, Brian is in Chicago or Florida, or wherever he was, or California at the time, and there was something going on that Brian made it without being a member of the pedigreed suite in the financial world. He worked his way up. The private equity firm he founded and manages deals in real money. They deal in hundreds of billions of dollars. And you can read about all that he's done in your program, but he took from Webb something that I think carries today, and I hope it continues to carry him in his new ventures. It's a great pleasure to introduce our Alumnus of the Year, Brian Singer.
I guess I should do that, right? All right, everyone. I got some notes here. I'm not going to look at them anyway, so wearing sunglasses is fine because I don't have my reading glasses. First, my wife, Linda, the white-haired one here. It's her birthday, and it's an important birthday, and she did agree to be here with me today. Thank you so much. She, however, declined the reunion tonight. Sorry, folks. We'll work on that later, next time around. And I also want to thank two people, obviously, Marion Marks being one of them, but the other one is Sandra Truitt. And I was asked to pick someone to introduce me. And it was one of the hardest, I'm pretty good at decisions, and that was one of the hardest decisions that I had to come up with because they were both so incredibly influential in my life as it went forward. What I didn't realize is that I would become kind of crazy in many, many ways from here on out. But I'll just give you a little sense of where the path has been. It's been a fun one. But I'll start off with something that is very important to me. This is a Peter Thiel quote, which I think I can see here. That's my phone dinging over there. It's a banjo, just so if you're wondering. What important truth do very few people agree with you on? Think about that question. What important truth do very few people agree with you on? I've made a career out of being disagreeable, a career out of being skeptical, and a career about letting people know that I disagree with them, as my wife and brother will attest to a great degree. I like these. You don't like them? All right. So much for that. All right, let me get my real ones out. I went to, from here, I went to Northwestern University in Chicago. I remember when I got there, I was thinking to myself, geez, there weren't as many people on the train as where I went to school. It was quite a culture shock for me. I'd never heard of Northwestern when I went there. I just couldn't afford anything, so they gave me the most money, and that turned out to be not the cheapest. I studied economics, I studied math, and a little bit of computer science, so that was when I began to become disagreeable. They taught me economics, Keynesian economics, which I went to my advisor and said, yeah, I understand everything you're teaching me, I just disagree with all of your conclusions. And she said, oh, yeah, there are other people like you. They go to University of Chicago. I'm like, oh, damn it, I got it wrong, so I got to go there then later. And I also jumped right into math, which I absolutely loved. And then I realized as I got into that, it's like, oh, shit. Everybody here was valedictorian in their class. This is really tough. And I wasn't. So that made it even more tough. And I do want to throw, that was Jill Archer. She was the one who deserved it the most, and she was the one who got it. But I did end up going into finance, and that was the start of math and all of finance, really. And it was the Wild West. It was wonderful. There was no math that existed, especially for nonlinear solutions. There were no rules of the game. And we wrote the rules of the game. Every day was going into a saloon and trying to figure out who you can hustle and who's hustling you. And I loved the Wild West. It was absolutely fantastic. But in addition to math and economics, I had another interesting little education. Guess how many computers there were in Northwestern University when I was there? Anybody want to take a guess? 1, 2, 1. That's what happens when old people like me answer the question. There were 2. And I learned wonderful languages like Fortran, COBOL, Pascal, and IBM System 360 assembler language, which was interesting. But then it was great because I could apply all that, and it was the Wild West. And then after about 10 years, I moved over into what's known as macro, which is investing all over the world. And that was the Wild West again, because we were investing in emerging markets and, trading foreign exchange like the Egyptian pound, the Brazilian real, and all of these other things which nobody knew anything about. But again, we got to write the rules of the game. Sometimes when I teach college classes, I start off, you got to give them a hook. Investing is like driving an Uber using Waze while you're tripping on acid. That's my starting line, and if you're interested in knowing why that is actually quite true, happy to chat with you after the fact. And just so you know, I've never done acid in my life. You know what I forgot to do here? I'll come back to that. I forget to do everything. But I will say, Marion gave a nice introduction. The biggest thing that I had going in my favor was luck. And I realized it was luck, and I try to tell my kids it was luck. And a lot of smart people aren't lucky, and a lot of dumb people are very lucky. That would be me. So I was able to make it that way. What worked for me? There were 5 things that worked for me and worked for the people I hired. First is ethics. I destroyed my career twice along the way by walking away from firms because of my own ethical discomfort, something that I had with them. Another one was intelligence. I got lucky. Third one is chronic depression. The only people who see the world probabilistically accurate are those who suffer from chronic depression. And if you're an investor, that's a very good thing to have. And it attracts people who have that. The other one is being on the spectrum. That is also an advantage as an investor. And the reason I say these things is if you have ever been close to mental health issues, I like to make them public and destigmatize them. So I'm very, very happy to jump up here and say these things. And I do it quite frequently. And ethical people, intelligent people are a dime a dozen. The ones that are hard to hire is the 5th trait that I feel I got really lucky with, and that is to have insatiable curiosity and imagination. That's the one thing that's hard to hire. I did not have that when I was at Webb. I began to get it when I was in college, and it took the next 20 years after that to really get it. And that curiosity really is about me not being an aspiring alum, but being an aspiring student. And I still take college classes today, which my wife is the one who got me interested in because she was doing it, and then I started doing it, and I absolutely love it. It's so much fun, and it doesn't cost anything when you're old and in the way. So the last thing is I will say is I'm now entering into a new chapter in the Wild West saga, and that is I am now a cultivator and investor of cannabis and psilocybin. So a minor shift here, and you're going to kind of react to that, but I will say right now, for mental health reasons, I think that research in this dimension is a wide open field globally. The U.S. is so far behind and incompetent and incapable of understanding this. It's absolutely amazing. But it is the Wild West. I'm doing 2 things. One is I have growing operations in Lesotho, Africa. Lesotho is a population of 2.2 million people. It has a 50% unemployment rate, 50% live in extreme poverty, and over 20% are HIV positive. It is legal there to cultivate and export, and we are teaching people to fish. We're not giving them fish. We hire them, we teach them how to cultivate, and they get a percent of what comes out of their facility. And that is teaching them the concepts of ownership, meritocracy, and focus on what they're doing. We are creating a brand in the United States, which we're bringing in some A-list Black celebrities as a consortium to support and be the face of this brand, but hopefully we can, through that and a foundation, bring a good bit of money to Lesotho. It doesn't take much when you're in a country like that. Last thing is we're also in cannabis doing solar array installations at cultivation facilities. I don't give a rat's patootie about environment stuff like that. We can talk about that later. Like I said, I have a nice background of being a disagreeable person. But if the government's going to pay me to install solar arrays, I'm going to install solar arrays, and the government will pay me to install solar arrays. So anyway, that's kind of it. Bottom line, I would say, is life is an endless stream of choices. Be inventive, be innovative, explore, and if you find it, exploit. So, excellent. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Ryan. Congratulations.